Hello everyone and welcome back to Sendik's Weather channel, and today we are looking at the latest from a potential named storm that may bring some disruption this weekend. There's a lot of uncertainty about this still, and we're only 4 or 5 days away from when we could be seeing any potential impacts from it, and if it even develops at all. But what I will say is there is the risk of some quite disruptive weather from all parts of the UK with this. So we're going to take a look at the UKV first, and then we'll run through the main models to see their positioning and track of this storm system. Now, it would be named as Humberto, but it would be an ex-hurricane that is developing here. But it could be named. It could be Storm Amy, I guess, named by the Metafist, but we'll have to wait and see how things develop over the next few days. Of course, it could drift northwards into the North Sea. It could go into Norway. It could slide back towards the Arctic polar regions, such as Greenland and Iceland, or it could direct hit the UK. Most likely options, probably not this, but this is what I am looking at today. So if you enjoyed today's video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. Leaving a hype if you have that button available to you. Thank you all for your continued support. Right then, so we're going to look from 9 AM on Friday with this UKV run, which is the UK Metafist run. You can see the weather front associated with this rain or this stormy system is moving through the early hours to mid-morning on Friday. Then it's moving across the UK on a northwest, well, it's on a northeast alignment like this. Slightly northeast was like that, clearing into the North Sea. But you can see on its leading edge, on the front of this storm system, lots of heavy rain for, well, here in this case, northern Scotland, the central belt, northwestern regions, parts of Wales, and the southeast. And then that clears away into our east, and there's some heavy rain behind it. And this here, where I'm going to draw that there, is kind of like the eye of the storm. So obviously the calmest bit is your eye of the storm. But looking at the wind gusts, so it is going to pick up actually through Thursday in the west, in the Irish Sea. It's going to pick up in the west, could get up to 50 miles an hour, potentially maybe a little bit higher. But as we move into, whoopsie daisies, as we move into Friday into Saturday, along the leading edge of that storm, you can see the strong winds beginning to move in from the west, and this moves through. And as you can see, on its leading edge, on its southern flank, which is where you see the strongest winds, upwards of 70 to 80 miles an hour through northwestern England, through just general parts of northern England, the northeast, along through the North Sea, in the Irish Sea, up to 60 to 70 miles an hour, pretty strong. But then as it clears out to our east, into the North Sea, you can see on its back edge, upwards of 90 miles an hour being shown just off the central belt there. Aberdeenshire, for example, pretty wild conditions. Now, that's just one model run, and as you'll see, which is quite hard to see, and I will say it is very hard to see, this is the storm system here. It's hard to pinpoint, but you can just see it there. So on Friday, it's moving through across the Republic of Ireland, and it's moving through on a northwest-southeast alignment and clears out into the North Sea, just out from the north of Scotland. You see it goes like this, so like a northwest-southeast alignment, so it moves like that, and then it clears away into the North Sea. Would bring some impacts with that. I would expect some definite weather warnings with that one, but that is just one model run. This is the GFS's idea on this storm system, potential storm system. Start from Friday the 3rd of October. So you've got expected to arrive Saturday the 4th, but look at this. An extremely developed area of low pressure moving across the Republic of Ireland there. The centre of the low, it is centred around 944 millibars, an extremely developed area of low pressure moving in to the country. And that would bring very, very strong winds, maybe upwards of 90 miles an hour with that, because it is very developed, 940 millibars. At the centre of that could be some very strong winds there. But as you can see with this run, with the GFS, it takes it straight across the country. So bringing really widespread impacts to central England there, central northern England. Does thankfully weaken as it moves across to, next trip across the Croc Pond into the UK. And then as it clears out into the North Sea, does begin to weaken slowly and high pressure builds back in, but very strong storm there. Now, what we would say is that obviously it's very much on the extreme end of the runs possible, which have been shown, but definitely don't rule it out because the models are messing around a lot. If we look and compare it to the previous run, you can see it was further northwards, but still very much developed across northern Scotland, just slightly positioned further northwards. Then with the 6Z, it shifted it south. So obviously it is on the extreme end, but it is still a major possibility that something like this could happen, and it would bring widespread strong winds to many parts of the country, particularly for central, southern Midlands there actually, and obviously northwestern Ireland, sort of the same areas where we saw impacts from Iowa, but in that case it went in this sort of direction from the Republic of Ireland into northern Scotland, and then cleared out into the North Sea. This one's going from the Republic of Ireland to central northern England and clearing out into the North Sea. So a very similar track if this came off. Just one model run though, as I picked up on. Comparing that to the GEM at the same time, this is that storm system, or that low pressure system. That's it there. Moving, well, it's very small, very hard to see actually on this chart. 992 millibars at the centre of that, and that actually just brings in some rainfall as it clears out to the southeast into France. Actually brings just a little bit of rainfall and some slightly stronger winds to the far south and southwest there. Definitely much more different, and then backs the wind into a northerly direction, but definitely much less, well, less strong is probably the best way to put that. We've got the ECM here as well, and at the same time, this one has it shifted further northwards. It's very developed. You can just see at the centre of that 944 millibars at the centre of that low pressure system, but not bringing too many impacts to the UK. Just some slightly stronger winds, enhanced winds for the Isles of Mulskye, for example, and the Highlands, just barely grazing the far northwest there. Still quite strong up in the north, still quite gusty, but nothing compared to what the GFS was showing, that's for sure. Moving on to the Icon run. This is actually just updated, but as you can see, for Saturday midnight, 928 millibars at the centre of that very, very, very developed area of low pressure at the centre, but you can see it's drifting further to our north and east, so bringing some quite strong winds to the far northwest of Scotland there, but missing the UK for the most part, just bringing in some slightly stronger winds than that associated weather front through Friday. Timing the devil's in the detail, and also the positioning the devil's in the detail as to the impacts that we could see from this. It could be a very disruptive period of weather. It could be a very quiet period. There's just a lot of uncertainty. We've also got the UK Met Office run to see what that is showing, and that brings the area of low pressure further southwards. This is sort of like the track of Iowa, but it is less developed. 978 millibars at the centre, but this one brings it from the Republic of Ireland into the northeast of Scotland, and does develop it a little bit more as it clears into the North Sea, and that would bring some strong gusty winds to the central belt of Scotland and probably the northeast of England as well, as it clears away, and on the back edge some strong northwesterly to northerly winds as that clears away into Scandinavia and Norway, for example. But definitely would bring some impacts with that. But the track, again, is much different. The way it exits the jet stream is a much different track to the GFS run. So lots of variation. If we actually look at the GFS ensembles for Aberdeen, which is, your further north location, then you can see that with the latest runs, it is dropping it down to 975 millibars at its core, which I barely showed you that, but 975 millibars at its lowest point with the average, but there's lots of runs as low as 940 and as high as 1,000 millibars that don't even develop it. There is a lot of variation. Obviously, the furthest north point would typically be the point where you'd see the strongest winds besides the Republic of Ireland, which is why I've picked Aberdeenshire, for example. If we go further southwards to London, and you'd expect it to be much lower, but you can see there's still a drop there, and there's still a few runs, isolated runs, doing what that GFS operational run did, and bringing in that area of low pressure further southwards, and bringing in stronger winds. You can also start with the temperature contrast as well. Depending on that position of the area of low pressure, it's further south as over central England, it would actually be milder in the south and southwest. But if it's positioned over Scotland, it would be milder in the north. So definitely much more variation with this, and it's definitely something that needs to be worked out over the next few days. Comparing to the ECM ensembles, you can see that the drop is much less distinct. So for Aberdeen, 982 millibars at its lowest point, still quite deep area of low pressure. There's a few going down to like 960, but nowhere near as extreme as GFS. It was really on that end of the spectrum, the very, very unlikely end, but again, cannot be ruled out as a possibility, and I'm sure it'll be narrowed down in the next few days, the exact track. There'll be lots of chopping and changing, though, I'd expect, with this pattern, as there normally is. So, something to keep an eye on, and I'll keep you posted when I get back from a holiday on Friday about all the details. So thank you all very much for watching today's video. Found it informative, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I'm just making you aware of the impacts that could be around with a potential storm system, Humberto, which may be named, may not be named as Amy in the UK. We'll have to wait and see how things develop. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.